How's it going, everyone? Chrono here, back again to give you some ideas on what to try in OP13 with another installment of Rogue Revolution. I know this one's a little bit late, but the fact is I went through quite a few leaders and deck lists last week, and I couldn't really find one that I loved. So after episode 4, where I looked at Arlong and Betty, I just couldn't shake the feeling that there had to be some kind of a hyper-aggressive deck that could work for this format. My thinking was that if there was ever a format for a deck with a true glass jaw, it had to be this one, since two of the big three have basically no offensive pressure till the later turns, and Zoro has always had a weakness to decks that are slightly lower to the ground than him. And so that's how I ended up on a mono-red deck as the first place I would start looking, with the ST21 Gear 5 Luffy. There's been a few formats that I've thought this guy had some potential in, and I've always really liked the Bonnie 1-drop as an early game unit for this leader specifically, as it does replace itself when it's removed, as well as the fact that you can very effectively play it with the old ST01 Rush Sanji. It's a fast deck that really lends itself to the old 1-drop style with cards like Buggy, Makino, and the Mountain Bandits, and then using rush cards and power-up events to help finish the game. The main idea was to put together as many 5k attacks as possible, as fast as possible, the reasoning being that when it comes to combating Emu, since they tend to have 1 to 2 counter events that give plus 3k and plus 4k in their hand at any given time, attacking with 7k still tends to only net you 1 card out of their hand, and so why attack with 7k when instead you could just swing 5k twice? Well, that was the idea anyway, and in practice it did work fairly well. Even if the Emu went second, a lot of the times I was still able to drain their entire hand to just about 1 to 2 cards before their 10 dawn turn. I tried a lot of different combos of cards as well. Some of the standouts were the Imposter Straw Hat crew, the OP01 Super Luffy, and then the OP03 Thatch. All of these cards run into the same problem of dying as soon as they attack, but that's the case for all the 1-drops in our deck as well, so it really doesn't end up mattering. We just kinda let all of our characters die as soon as they're attacked into. Now, trouble could arise when the Emus were able to hang on with 1 life remaining and then use their 5 Elders to establish the blockers, because at that point I couldn't just kill them with the unblockable Diable Jambe attack from the leader. But then the real problem that the deck would run into was actually against the Ace deck, because, well, we're trying to swing 5k, and that's a 6k leader, so our main game plan is completely ineffective against that. Admittedly, it was still a little bit better than Arlong was doing, just because we could sometimes cheese out a win with the unblockable Diable Jambe, but it was really rough going for this Luffy deck. And that's why I ended up scrapping it entirely, and I started out fresh with the mono-red Zoro, back from OP01. And I actually tried out 2 builds for the Zoro deck. The first was the usual Zoro build, which does use the animal package with all the choppers to spam out a bunch of the 3 to 5k bodies onto the board, and then you can pump them with your leader effect and attack with a lot of them in 1 turn. The second was the 1-drop stuff, which was the same kind of idea that I was using with the Luffy deck, with the Mountain Bandits, Makino, etc. Both of them were pretty effective, and did a little bit better than the Luffy did. It just ended up being, you could put together 6k swings a lot easier with the Zoro, and so it was actually able to hit the Ace deck, and could still effectively drain Emu and Zoro's hands, especially since they only have about 8 to 10 2Ks apiece, and so once you drained all the 2Ks and spells out of their hands, suddenly they have to start either taking the damage or giving you 2 cards for each swing, so 6k actually just ended up being a better number than 5. Still, it had pretty much the same problem as Luffy, where if Emu manages to hang on to 1 life and then use the 5 Elders, it was usually just over. You still couldn't Diable Jambe through it, and then going first against Ace was just as cooked. Both felt very similar in power, and maybe the Zoo build was a little bit more effective, but it still just felt like it was missing something. And maybe a better finisher that just didn't really exist in red, maybe some kind of way to get around the blockers that wasn't just making the leader unblockable, but it was missing something. And so both this guy and this guy couldn't get it done. Surely there was someone in the red Straw Hats capable of taking on the meta, right? Well, it turns out there was another contender right under my nose. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Tony Chopper. If this is your first time looking at this leader, Chopper is a 4-life red-green leader with the Animal, Drum Kingdom, and Straw Hat typing, as well as 1 effect. Activate main, attach one rested Dawn to each of up to 3 Animal or Drum Kingdom characters. He is a leader that excels at swarming the board with Tony choppers, and then buffing all the choppers in the late game to put out about 5 8k swings on the last turn. Additionally, with access to green, he can play such powerhouse events such as Dead Man's Game, Electrical Luna, and characters like Hody Jones or the 9-cost Zoro. His leader effect also synergizes very well with buffs once you have an established board, as you will be able to reuse the Dawn you used to strengthen the characters to then further buff the same characters. Chopper is not without flaws though. He is pretty much forced to play the animal package, which is at minimum a whopping 32 cards, but is more likely going to be closer to 38 cards, leaving very little room for tech cards, and so you'll have to be quite judicial when picking exactly what you want to help target the meta. Like I mentioned before, this deck is also a glass cannon, even more so than the Red Zoro and Luffy leaders that I had tried previously, as at least those had 5 health to work with, and so there are times when you'll actually need to counter out of hand to defend your life just to make sure that you can't get run over before the 10 Dawn turn, something I didn't ever really need to care about with the other leaders. If your opponent tries to ignore your board though, it will get quite perilous for them quite quickly, so that does help to mitigate the pressure that they can put on you. Lastly, this leader is very reliant on seeing at least one of 2 cards within the first 2 turns of the game to find success. It's much better than Caesar Clown's Monet problem, but if you don't get the chopper that cheats out other animals from the deck, or the red event Shut Up and Come With Us, then you're in for a tough game. Alright, and so with the leader overview out of the way, let's jump right into the card by card. Like I mentioned before, Tony Chopper must run the animal package. There's no way around it. Without it, his leader effect is completely ineffective. So let's start with that. The most important card of it, the heart and soul of the deck, is the Tony Chopper 3-cost 5k character from OP08 that during your turn on play and when attacking digs through the top 5 of the deck to play a power 4000 or less animal from among those cards. Getting just one of these guys on the board is a game changer early because of how limited removal is in this format. He's pretty much guaranteed to get at least 2 activations off. Some targets are much better to hit than others, but it is important to play enough targets that this thing's going to hit 95% of the time, as whiffing is oftentimes a death sentence. One of the best targets to hit is the Odyssey Chopper. This is a 4k power character that is able to restand itself at the end of the turn to be a little bit more annoying to get rid of. There's also the EBO1 blocker chopper, which the opponent almost has to attack into, because if you ever get to attack with it, it's going to be able to reduce the enemy character's power and make them very easy to swing over. Not usually something you do in the early game, but definitely something that can come up against especially Ace, who has much higher powered characters, and sometimes you can even swing over his Whitebeard blockers. There's also the OP01 Chopper, another 4k power character with a rather unassuming ability. With 1 Dawn attached when attacking, he can pitch a card from your hand to retrieve a non-chopper Straw Hat from your trash. There is only 1 target for this card to grab, but it's an important one to have, and so I'll talk about it when we get to that card. Otherwise, this is just another 4k animal target. Then we've also got the OP04 Alabasta Chopper, which actually cheats out a 3k power animal character from your hand as an on-play, and so between this guy and the OP08 Chopper, you could end up getting 3 guys out on the board for just 3 Dawn. Well, that means that we must have some 3k power animals as well, right? And indeed we do. There's a Chopper from EBO2 which has 3k power, and as an on-play can attach 1 Dawn to a leader or character, and so with 2 Dawn attached as well, it does become a 5k even on the opponent's turn to be a little bit easier to defend. We've also got the Hiking Bear. Wow, our first non-chopper character. This guy, when he has 1 attached Dawn, can activate main and give another animal a 1k boost. Not huge, but something to do if you don't have 3 targets that it can attack, and you end up playing this guy on the turn. You can use your leader effect to stick a Dawn on him, and then still get a little extra boost out of your 1 Dawn that otherwise would have gone to waste. Another chopper from EBO2 I've included is 2 of the 5-cost Chopper Man. This one just plays a 3-cost animal from hand as an on-play, and it can be a nice way to utilize your Dawn in the mid-game to help fill up the last couple slots on your board, as it's a 6k body and becomes quite perilous for your opponent as you buff it even more. Also a part of the animal package is the aforementioned Shut Up and Come With Us event. This is a 1-cost counter event that can cheat out a 3-cost animal from the top 5 of your deck. Any seasoned player will know that Zoro or Chopper players are going to be holding up 1 Dawn with this in their back pocket, and so are likely going to hold off an attack in the early game so as not to give you extra bodies. This is helpful as it helps keep us healthy. Even if you don't actually have it, you can bluff that you have it. And if you do have it and they choose not to swing into you initially, well, once you have characters that are rested, they're going to need to attack into those, and so you'll still be able to get value out of this card by replacing the characters that would be destroyed by the attack with a new character from the top of the deck. The last piece of the package is actually not an animal at all. It's Chopper's mentor, Dr. Heroic. He's a 2k that can rest himself to give all choppers on the field plus 2k power. Couple this with the leader effect, and you can attach 3 Dawn that you paid for this guy to your choppers, and then it's a potentially an 11k boost for just 3 Dawn spread over 4 bodies. Imagine if you have another Dr. Heroic, and suddenly you've gotten a 19k boost for just 6 Dawn. Or a third one, and now you've got a 27k boost for 9 Dawn. Okay, well, enough Dreamer combos. Having at least one of these guys for the last turn of Chopper swings is quite significant, and he is a 2k to boot, so he's very important for the deck. Aside from the animals, I have the ST21 Sanji 2k. This guy allows any Straw Hat character with 6k power or more to become unblockable for the turn, so you can just boost up a Chopper and then jam this one down and give it unblockable and get one big attack while your opponent has no life left. Think of it as a Diable Jambe, but it's a 2k. Additionally, this is going to be the target that we are going to grab back from our trash, just in case we needed to counter out with 2k early. The OP01 Chopper can change out any card in your hand for this Sanji. There's also the OP06 Secret Rare Zoro as our best late game option to beat Ace. If you can drop him on 9 and then give him the Sanji effect for unblockable, he's swinging 14k 3 times and your opponent's not going to be able to block it. This is the main reason I believe that Chopper is slightly more suited to the meta than Zoro, as the raw power of this card alone helps Chopper to more consistently contend with the Ace deck. That being said, Ace does play Red Rock and so could have a direct answer to this card, which can be extremely devastating. However, with the pressure that we're able to apply early, Ace players are likely going to pitch the Red Rock for leader effect to give themselves a little extra counter power, as Red Rock doesn't fare well into swarm strategies, and they won't see the value in the card and keeping it around compared to some of their other no counter cards. On average, and most likely, if you end up playing against your local Ace player enough times, they're going to figure out that you'll play Zoro in your deck and will start to hang on to the Red Rocks. And then lastly, there's Searcher Nami. She can grab any of our Straw Hats from the top 5 of the deck. Now, normally Chopper decks would also play Dr. Kureha as an additional searcher to find all the Choppers in the deck, as well as any Drum Kingdom cards, like the Dr. Hero Look, which Nami is not able to get. But Nami does dig through 5 instead of just 4, and I decided that finding the Zoro and Sanji was more important than getting to Dr. Hero Look. I also didn't want to cut any of the Choppers out because I wanted to keep OP08 Chopper's search and play effect as consistent as possible. The searchers largely aren't going to be attacking anyway, since most of the time we're going to have better bodies to allocate Dawn to, so both Nami and Kureha would just be used to dig for any pieces that we're currently missing. Alright, well, here's the full deck list, and with that, let's jump into the games. So we're starting off game 1 against Zoro, and we do win the die roll. I choose to go first because I want to put on some early aggression and also get some guys on the board before he can get a Tashigi down. Fortunately, our Nami does hit one of the very important cards in our deck, Shut Up and Come With Us, and additionally in our opener is the OP08 Chopper, so I'm already liking our odds of success in this game. We'll be able to drop down the OP08 Chopper on curve after we get a 5k leader swing in, see if he wants to take it or not, and it looks like he'll just counter out. We'll go ahead and look off the top 5, grab the OP04 Chopper, which cheats another body into play. This is where Zoro can really struggle just because he can only remove one body a turn. Fortunately for the Zoro player, he does get a Kuina, so he is able to rest our OP08 Chopper and remove that, so we won't be able to cheat any additional bodies for free with that one. However, that's not a big deal for us. We've already gotten 2 bodies basically out of it, and so from here we'll just be able to go for 5 with our leader, 5 with our hiking bear, and 6 with our OP04 Chopper. Establish another Chopper and hold up 1 Dawn for the counter event. Now this is really nice because should he decide to attack with his leader, which of course he's going to, we can replace whatever he attacks with something from the top 5 of our deck. Of course we're hoping to get the OP08 Chopper as the best target, but we could settle for pretty much anything and we have a really good chance of hitting something. He'll just go ahead and use the 6-drop Law to get his Prona out to trade in for a Tashigi, which will allow him to swing 8 to pretty much eliminate any body from our board. we'll just go ahead and replace it with an exact same copy of it, but from the top of our deck. And so our board stays about the same. This game is going to go just about 2 more turns. Either we are going to build enough of a board here to eliminate him on our follow-up turn, or he's going to kill us on his next turn. Now, I do have quite a few cards in my hand with all counter powers, so I'm not too worried about dying next turn. After all, he hasn't even reached 10 Dawn. And so I do go ahead and opt to play another chopper. I don't want to get into a position where I don't have enough bodies on the board, which could happen, as if he swings fully into board, we'll be just left with 2. And that's with us playing the 5th body, so if we had only 4, it could end up with us just with 1 body, and that would be not enough swings to end the game. So I'm willing to take the risk, and I'm even willing to take this hit because I kind of want to dare him to go for it with his blocker, and he does. Now, notably, we already have 4k of counter in hand thanks to the 2k we got out of life, and so we're 100% going to be able to get out of the 8k swing. Because we do know he has the event in hand. He does go for it, and we counter out, and from here, we were even able to hold on to the Dr. Hero look, so we would have been able to go super big into the next turn. Here in Game 2, we're up against Emu. They do win the die roll, and so opt to go second, unsurprisingly. We do have a very good opener, though, so I'm confident in this game. We've got the OP08 chopper plus the counter event, and then some Odyssey choppers. Now, unfortunately, having the Odyssey choppers in hand means we won't be able to hit them off of the OP08 chopper search, but that's okay. We can just grab any old chopper here. We're probably just going to let them fall if they get attacked into, which they definitely will. We don't have any 2Ks in hand, so giving up 3 cards is just not going to be worth it to defend this chopper. Even 2 cards is too big of a price. And so the Emu just swings 5 into our 3, we let it go, but we have a great follow-up here. At a minimum, we're getting a body off of the OP08 chopper, we're getting a body for 1 off of the Shut Up and Come With Us, and we can play a Odyssey chopper, which is one of our stickiest bodies. Of course, we're hoping to hit something off of the Nami, and in fact we do. We get another OP08 chopper. That's going to allow us to cheat another 4k body. We can go ahead and use Leader Effect to make sure that our chopper is getting a 6k swing, so we can go 5-6 on this turn, cheat another body into play, and hold up 1 Dawn for the counter event. We hit another 4k chopper. It's the blocker this time, but the minus power is not very relevant in this matchup, so it's for the most part just a 4k chopper. Our opponent here does not have the Mars, which is very fortunate for us, but does have the Rusher, so we'll still be able to clear our OP08 chopper. Is what I thought he was going to swing into, but actually goes for the 4k. We can go ahead and give him 2 cards here, because from here he only has 2 swings left. We can at least hang on to one of our extra choppers, and of course the OP08 one is going to fall. There's no way that this Emu should let that live, and in fact they will not. Fortunately though, again, we do have the counter event, so we'll just go ahead and cheat out from the top another 4k chopper. Unfortunately, we don't have anything to play with the effect, but not a big deal as long as we get more attacking bodies onto the board. It's our 7 Dawn turn now, and I did top deck a Searcher Nami, so I'm just going to go ahead and see what it grabs us. It does find a Zoro, which is very useful for us, and so we'll just go ahead and cheat another body into play, of course, with the OP08 chopper, and all our swings are going to go face here. It's going to be a 6k, 6k, 6k. Now, I do kick myself a little watching this one back, as I should have pitched this Odyssey chopper to get back a Nami, just because I am still lacking the unblockable Sanji 2k, which will be very helpful to win the game with, but, well, we all make mistakes. At least we do have the Zoro, and sometimes the Zoro can just punch through on its own. Our opponent, though, since we only have 2 cards left in hand, is pretty much just going to be able to clear the entire board that's rested if he wants to, and may even have the Mars now to kill one of our standing bodies, which is why it's such a good thing that we have got the Zoro in hand now, as this is going to be our primary win condition going forward. And fortunately for us, instead of the Mars, they do drop the other War Curie blocker, so we won't be losing one of our choppers, and we at least can get 3 5k swings along with our Zoro play on the following turn. They do pass it over, and look at that, we top deck the Sanji. I guess better lucky than good, as they say. Anyway, we'll go 5k, 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 and they are deciding here whether they want to block to try to dig for another card. They decide to go ahead and do that, which is very fortunate for us, as we only have the 2 cards in hand, and we really want to hang on to this Sanji. If they had kept that blocker, theoretically, they could have threatened lethal with the 5 swings, and we may have ended up having to give up our Sanji unblockable spell. Well, I mean, it's a character, but we're going to treat it as an event card, basically. This way, though, the Emu has a maximum of 4 swings, and we still have all 4 life remaining, so we don't have to worry about dying at all. So we're kind of locked into just using this Sanji to go 14k 3 times with our Zoro on the follow-up turn. Our opponent doesn't necessarily know we have a way to make it unblockable, but pretty much realizes that as long as they can stabilize one more turn after this one, they are going to be able to walk with this game. So they don't commit any additional Dawn to any of their character swings. They're just going to go 5s, 6s, and a 7, and that does signify to us that they probably have plenty of spells in hand. We're just hoping it's not enough to get out of 3 14k swings with 1 life remaining. So they do just go ahead and swing the 7 and pass it back to us, and we'll just go ahead and test their hand to see if they do have it. So that's going to be 14 unblockable once, restanding, they take. We'll go 14 unblockable again. They give us a couple of events, and we'll make that 3 events. We'll go ahead and restand one more time, and it looks like they've used up all of their spells, and so we are going to walk with that one. Jumping right into game 3, we're up against Ace, and fortunately we do win the die roll, so we're going to get to go ahead and go second. Now this is the boogeyman of aggro decks, as you may recall from the Arlong video, as well as my earlier discussion on what was beating me as Red Zoro and Red Luffy. It was this deck for the most part. And so this Nami, though, is going to go ahead and find us the OP08 Chopper, and we do have 1-up for our spell. Our opponent is going to go ahead and attach a Dawn and think about swinging, but then think better of it, because he remembers that, well, Chopper could be playing the Shut Up and Come with us. So we don't get to get a free Chopper from our deck, but we do still get to play the Chopper on curve, and this nets us another Chopper from the top of the deck. We'll just go ahead and take the 4k one. For our opponent's next turn, he is going to be able to clear our Chopper. We're not going to defend it. That's way too much counter power for what we have in hand. And, of course, Dr. Hirolook and Sanji are both very good cards which we'll want to hang on to. So we'll just go ahead and develop a blocker and grab another card from the top with our OP08 Chopper. And then our opponent is deciding whether they want to counter or not. They decide to pitch a no counter card with leader effect, which is good for us because it means that our 7k swing we can follow up with will either hit or take a 2k out of hand. They let it hit and draw the 2 cards. Now we do still have our 1 Dawn up for our event card, which is going to be proccing this turn as they can't afford to not swing into our Chopper. We do get another OP08 Chopper, and I also want to defend this one, so I'll just go ahead and give up our Sanji plus a 1k. If we get another opportunity to swing with this OP01 Chopper, then we could grab the Sanji back. Unfortunately, he does decide to trade into it with his Marco, but because the blocker's gone, we are now in prime position to use this Dr. Hirolook to really put on the pressure. And so I'm deciding on exactly how I want to do these swings, and I end up going with 8k with the leader first, and then I'll be able to surprise him with the Dr. Hirolook from hand and go something like 8k 10k, or potentially just 8k 9k and bluff that I have one more Dawn. So we'll just go ahead and activate leader here. We'll go 8 again, see if he wants to give us 2 cards, and we also get to cheat a blocker Chopper. Very nice to have. He does give us the 2 cards, so we'll just go 9k here and another blocker Chopper. Very fortunate. We're looking really pretty right here. He's going to have to spend this turn to pretty much clear all of the important bodies from our board, which include the OP08 Choppers and the Dr. Hirolook. Fortunately for the Ace player, he does have the spell plus his Whitebeard, so he gets to cheat that into play, and it'll draw him a couple cards, pitch a no counter card from his hand, power up his swings, and basically guarantee that these OP08 Choppers are not long for this world. Additionally, he does have to use the Marco to clear our Dr. Hirolook so that we can't swing with our blocker Choppers. From here, though, we're still feeling very confident. We have the Zoro in hand, and he is grabbing an Uta off the top and not a Red Rock, which is also good news for us. Hopefully he doesn't have one, because here comes Zoro. And also, you may have noticed he gave us a counter instead of just blocking with the Whitebeard. That's because he would be afraid that we just go for like something like another Dr. Hirolook, pump up our 4k Choppers from hand, and swing something like 10k 10k, and maybe he can't get out of that. Anyway, in the face of the Zoro, he is just going to go ahead and play another blocker, swing a few times at us. We take looking for a Sanji, and while we don't get it from life, we do get it from the top deck, and so we'll just go ahead and go for the familiar 14 14 14 and hope that we're able to get through the 1 life that this player has remaining. He does take the first one, draws his 2 cards, but mathematically it is just not going to be enough, no matter how many 2Ks he gets. It is at least a trigger though, so he's going to be a 7k leader for the turn, but from here he'll still have to go for 2Ks, which he does, and he won't be able to do it a second time, which will net us the game. And those were the games. Now, I know the deck looked pretty good in those, but I do have a quick caveat I do have to inform you of. Those were played right after the ranked reset on the sim. Everybody went back to 0 points, so it was completely random who I was playing. They could have been new players, they could have been strong players, everybody was just back at an even level. With that being said, I don't think any of the opponents I played made any egregious misplays, so I do think that this deck has a good fighting chance against all of the top 3 of the meta. Ace is still the outlier as the toughest mountain to climb, but with Zoro, you can definitely make things a little bit more doable for yourself. Now, there are some other cards you could consider instead for your tech slots in the event you don't care for the idea of being absolutely ruined by a well-timed Red Rock. I had mentioned them already in the deck intro, but both Dead Man's Game and Hody Jones are powerful green options for getting around blockers, with Dead Man's Game having the added bonus of being searchable by Nami. These could be utilized against Emu after their first 5 Elders turn to rest their blockers and then go for game with whatever board you have left, and against Ace you can just rest their Marcos, Whitebeards, and or Dawn, then go for it with your board. The problem is that both of them require you to have a board left at the start of your turn, and additionally sometimes the Emu will cleverly use their 5 Elders for 4 Dawn, and then drop an additional Warcury from hand to get to 3 total blockers and 2 Dawn held up. This is a possibility that the unblockable Zoro takes out of the equation, as they won't be able to block him at all. You can still potentially lose to 2 events out of the Emu's hand if they still have 2 life left, but with the aggression we're putting out, most of the time they're not able to do that and will just have the 1 life. If you want to give the Zoro a little bit more oomph though, you could also be playing the King Kong Gatling to help pump him to a little bit better of a number at 15k, but it does hurt your Chopper deck's consistency as you'll be cutting out some of the animal package. You could also completely lean into the Chopper game plan and cut all the Zoros for Cloven Hoof. It's an event that's essentially a mini Dr. Heroic, which you can weave into your earlier turns for bigger swings, which can really add to the pressure you're putting out before dropping a Heroic on the last turn of the game. For me, though, the decisiveness of the Zoro just had the most success, so that's the one that I ended up going with for this deck profile. After playing it, I would rate the Chopper deck right here, with the Bello Betty at the top of the 6-3 tier. They both fall into the archetype of big power at the cost of consistency, with Betty being slightly stronger and Chopper having slightly better consistency. Unfortunately, that does make them a weaker choice for bigger events though, as more rounds means more variance, means more opportunities for you to not see your Shut Up and Come With Us or the OP08 Chopper in your first couple of turns. But Chopper does remain a great off-meta deck for the format, and definitely capable of winning a locals with a little bit of luck. Not to mention, this is probably the strongest this deck has ever been, and is likely to be the strongest this deck will ever be. The meta strongly favors what Chopper is bringing to the table right now, and so if you like this character, I would strongly advise you to play this deck right now. I mean, if Bonnie, Anel, Dofi, Lucci, pretty much anything that has strong removal or healing creeps back into the top 3, it's curtains for this deck. Chopper enjoyers, it's your time to play Chopper right now. So that's that. What'd you think? Did I miss any important text that Chopper should be including to be even stronger? What decks are you hoping to see in the future? Let me know in the comments below. Also, I've gotten a few requests for decks so far, including Vegapunk, Isho, and RP Uta, so expect those in the next couple videos. I'll probably do 2 at a time like I did with the Betty and Arlong, but more evenly split between the 2. Oh, and if you like this series, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to see more. Alright, that's it for me this time. Thanks for watching, everyone.